So this guy says, please ask him if the Comex closes and Western bullion markets go dark, if he will keep his doors open and tempt a supply demand for precious metals. Does he have any plans to acquire supply outside from Western systems? Also, would he become a bank or depository if silver gold was suddenly unattainable?
Well, it's really hard to do because
Yeah.
what Comex allows me to do is hedge my risk. If I have 10,000 ounces of gold in my warehouse, I sell 10,000 ounces on Comex. Because if the price goes down $100 on 10,000 ounces, I'm out $1 million. If it goes up by $100, I'm up $1 million. But I can't take that risk with my
Right.
inventory. So if it goes
Oh,
down by $100 and my physical holdings are down $1 million, what I sold short on Comex, a covered short, meaning I have the metal covering the short position. And if it goes down by 100, I'm down $1 million in my holdings physically, but I'm up a million on my Comex account. It allows me to be market neutral. So in essence, what the Comex was designed for were for people and farmers and whatnot to be able to hedge their exposure. A farmer who plants his field in April, and a baker who needs to secure wheat in September. Well, they work out a deal on the exchange. I'll buy your production, and this is what I'll pay you. And if you're okay with that, I like that price. Let's do a deal. Well, now the farmer, he knows that no matter what, he's got his product sold. Now the risk in it is that all of a sudden there's a wheat shortage and he sold way too cheap. But the other side is, well, maybe it's a horrible year and it rained a lot and the quality of the crop is horseshit. Well, the baker already agreed to the price. They have the contract. And when he takes delivery, he knows that he will have wheat to make his bread. And the farmer knows that he is now de-risked the whole year. It's to offset risk on both parties, but it's turned into a gambling casino. If you were to see the Comex blow up, dealers like myself could not hold large inventories. The risk would be extraordinary. So it would dramatically change the market,
what,
dramatically. And it would be
didn't
more like, give me money, I'll buy it for you, you'll get it in a month type of thing.
what didn't that happen with like Wall Street silver?
No,
Push my
that's a little bit different. But that explains what I do or what the Comex does. So that Friday, typically what we do on a Friday, so the market is open 24/7 around the world, but it closes at like 6 o'clock Eastern on Friday and opens up at 6 o'clock Eastern on Sunday. For those 2 days, it's closed. So typically what I do on a Friday is we will buy, like in silver, we may buy five, six, seven, eight Comex contracts at 5,000 ounces apiece and go long on Comex. So I'm long, let's say 50, 60, 70,000, well, maybe not that much, 40, 50, 60,000 ounces of silver over the weekend. And that way, if I get big orders, I have them hedged when the market opens up, no matter what it does. If the market spikes up against me, I have it hedged on those contracts I buy on Friday. And so when Silver Squeeze happened, we all knew something was going to happen on Friday. And my head trader called me up over the weekend because this started on like Thursday night, Friday morning, and something like that. And he says to me, "What should we do?" And I said, "Well, why don't you buy 11 contracts?" And so we were 55,000 ounces long over the weekend. And then that night, I'm getting calls from people saying AppMex and JM Bullion have closed their websites. They're not taking any new orders. And everyone thought they ran out of product. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. More likely what happened is what happened to me. Now, at this point, I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And I hadn't heard from my trader. I didn't know exactly what was going on. Saturday morning, I'm in Florida. He's in Minnesota. I get a call at 5:30 in the morning. That means it's 4:30 in the morning in Minneapolis. He was in Fargo, actually. And he says, you sold 90,000 ounces last night. And I'm doing interviews all night long. I'm talking to people all night long, all around the world. He says, you sold 90,000 ounces, or we did. You're 45,000 ounces naked exposed to the open. And oh, by the way, everyone's talking about the open gapping way up. And that can put you out of business if you're on the wrong
yeah.
side of that. So we closed our site. We stopped taking orders until Sunday night when the market opened. And it did open up a few bucks, and it cost us, $2.50 an ounce on 45,000 ounces. We were out $100,000. That's part of doing business. But
Yeah.
that's the whole issue with offsetting risk on Comex. If you are not able to hedge and the market moves against you and you've agreed to sell it at this price and it opens way up here, how are you going to get the metal to facilitate that promise? Well, you better have enough cash to be able to do it, or you've ruined your reputation forever. So the point of it is that the Comex being open allows companies to take orders without money in hand, and it allows us to speculate or to hold large inventories without risk of market swings against us.
Wow, that's a crazy story. I'm gonna have to clip that little story and like make it short out of it. By the way, shout out to my editor, man. That dude that's been making clips. That's been so cool. People love
Yeah,
those
it's
little,
it's I appreciate that. I
yeah. He
think they're
puts
very
the
cool as well.
subtitles, little like pictures of like of facts you say. He'll like prove it with the. Anyways, this person says, please talk about mindset of bartering. If an ounce of silver buys 1 gallon of milk today, do I assume that it will buy the same quantity of milk in the future, irrespective to the current fiat costs on that day? I mean, that I could answer that. It's a little, but yeah. What do you
I
think?
mean, how the hell does anyone really know?
Yeah.
Because I mean, let's use gold as an example. I mean, gold is at all-time highs in China. Gold is at all-time highs around the world. Because gold didn't go higher, or did it? Or is it the currencies that we measure it against have fallen? In other words, everything is valued in dollars right now. And so gold in dollar terms isn't at all-time highs, but on Monday it reached all-time highs against the yuan. So the point of it is that if you envision gold on a bathtub and the water underneath it, the currency, if you pull the plug on the tub, is it gold that went higher, or is it the dollar that fell further?
Right.
And so in that environment, I would assume that milk would go higher too. But yes, you would argue that the metal would in fact retain its purchasing power and if not accentuate it.
Yeah.
It's a fair question. In both instances, the dollar falls, both items go higher in price. So that's the whole point of what
Yep.
gold and silver do for you. They retain your standard of living, because as the dollar loses value, commodities become worth more or cost more. The metal that you own will retain its value. And it's proven that for, thousands of years, really.
Yeah. Like a walking Liberty $0.50 could get you a gallon of gas back in the day because gallon of gas was 50 cents. That same coin can get you a gallon of gas today. Not
Right.
50 cents, but you could
Well,
go
that
take
that's
that
that's
walking
over 10
Liberty
bucks,
and
right? That's
send
probably
$10
nine or
and get
ten
yourself a couple
dollars.
gallons.
So
Yep.
it'll get you a couple gallons of
Yep.
gas,
A couple
depending
gallons.
upon what
Yep.
state you're in, up to three. And the same thing is true when you look at 1960. Gold was 39 bucks an ounce, and the average price of a house was 17,000, according to the Census Bureau. Well, let's look at that. So if you take 17,000 divided by 39, it's like 435 ounces. So that would have bought you a house in 1960, the average house in middle America. Now the average house, let's call it 350, $400,000. Well, 430 ounces of gold, or 435, or whatever the exact number is. Well, that's, almost $1 million. That buys you two or three houses. And that gold that you would have not traded, even though you thought about it, you had it, your grandfather gave it to you, let's say, that's been earning nothing but dust for the past 60 years, no interest. And it still has kept pace with the devaluing of the dollar and actually outpaced it, where that same home, that was 16,000 is now 300,000, but the gold that you could have used to buy it buys you three homes now instead of that one. And the same thing, you go all the way back in history and find other examples. This $20 gold coin right here in 1907 would have bought you a suit and a tie and a overcoat. 20 bucks right now won't even buy you a tie, but that ounce of gold, 2,000 bucks. You think you're going to get a suit and a tie and an overcoat for that? I do. So the point of it is that you go back through all of time and you'll notice a constant theme that it's not about becoming wealthy. It is wealth that retains its purchasing power in the light of declining currency valuations. And
Yeah.
that's the story.
Yep. David Morgan used that reference, the gold coin in the suit thing when I interviewed
I
him. I
love
like
David.
that.
He's a good friend. And
Yeah.
if you're listening, David, hope you're well, brother.
This person says talk about the 50% decrease in shorts on SLV and the big players and what that could mean for the price of silver.
Well, and this is something I worry about, for those people who are so bullish on the ETF, the Bitcoin ETF. You could look at, since the inception of the ETFs, the price of gold and silver have gone higher, but it also gives them the ability to naked short. Now, why would you be able to naked short an ETF, which the whole idea of an ETF is it's a one-to-one, it's a proxy. In other words, each share represents a certain amount of silver or a certain amount of gold. Like I think it's 1/10 of an ounce of gold or 10 ounces of silver. And if you are supposedly able to do that, each share that you create has to have a corresponding amount of silver behind it. Why would you be able to naked short it? And all it does is allow the market to be suppressed by the banks. It's another way of doing it. You also see these large banks who hold large amounts of shares in SLV will sell it and redeem it for metal, and it's much more private than taking it off a Comex. So the fact that you're seeing less of a short position ultimately would be bullish, yes. And it's been a big deal. I mean, the naked short position has been massive on it, and it really is a manipulative tool that I think kind of sucks. So to see it decrease is a positive thing for sure.
I would be interested to know what Andy collects. We all want bullion for the value and security against the falling dollar and global unrest, but we all have some amount of premium bullion coins around or historical coins. We collect things that a pure stacker would believe is a complete waste. What can Andy not resist and acquires for himself?
I don't like any modern minted bullion numismatics. I
Same.
don't.
Yeah,
Um, I like pre-33 numismatics. I love the Morgan silver dollar. I
same.
love the Peace silver dollar, which is 1936 and before. But in gold, I love the pre-33. You can make the analogy to baseball cards. You look at the baseball cards from the turn of the century, way back when, and kids didn't know to take care of them. They put them in their bicycle spokes. They play games with them. You find the old baseball cards, the Babe Ruths, the Ty Cobbs, the Cy Youngs. I have them on my wall right here. They're all framed, and you can see some of them right there in those
Wow.
frames there. Those are
Nice.
all old baseball cards, and Cy Young and Babe Ruth and Ty Cobb and all the Mickey Mantles and all of those cards that are worth a lot of money because people didn't understand that they had to take care of them. They're all certified by PSA, which is the same company like PCGS
Yep.
that certifies the coins. And
Yep.
so when you have all of these old cards or old coins that are in uncirculated condition, they truly are rare. When you have modern minted coins, it's like the new baseball cards. Everyone knows that they
Right.
should be in perfect condition, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're going to spend money to buy collectible, for me, buy the old stuff, which is truly rare, instead of
Yeah.
buying a modern minted stuff where a story was created out of it. So I mean, look,
Yeah.
I think when you build a hot fudge sundae, you start with a big bowl of vanilla ice cream. And there's nothing wrong with having cherries and hot fudge and sprinkles on it. Whatever that means to you is fine. You're doing it knowing that you've got the base of your your portfolio covered in vanilla bullion. But if I'm buying Numismax personally, I buy the pre-33 stuff.
I do have one newer coin that I bought, but there's a reason I have an MS70 2021 Morgan. And I did that because it was the 100-year anniversary. First year they brought Morgans back since 1921. And I have an MS70 version, so like, and even more valuable, they canceled them next year. So,
There
2022
are
Morgan.
examples of where the modern
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
is great.
Like,
And I bought the Morgans and the Peace dollars that came out as well.
yeah.
But
But that's
more
one of
often
the,
than not, that modern
yeah.
stuff is more fluff than it
Yeah,
is
it's
substance.
pay for the coin, not the slab, is what like
Right.
the silver
Right.
stackers always say.
Yeah,
That's
it's
kind of
true.